Hello, let me do a check-in with my read of The Dfflpffs, which is my NaNoWriMo novel, which I finished after a good couple of months. I think I was already all the way into January from starting it in November. This National Novel Writing Month is in November, and that's where I got probably the good hunk of this fantasy novel following two characters, the Dfflpffs, Al or Miss Dfflpff, Mrs. Dfflpff, and her son Peter. And so yeah, I wrote that through November, December, and January, and by the time I got done with it, yeah, I was, well, God, I didn't want to look at it again, and so I put it aside. And what I've done this last month or so is I've been reading it. Just sort of like, and I started off as like, okay, this is a chore, this is a task. I put a little D up in the calendar here to mark off, okay, I read two little sections of the book because it alternates back and forth between Mrs. Dfflpff and Peter. So I'll just read one section, one section, one section, and it's actually been going quite well. It hasn't been as much of a slog as I have. I still kind of it's good to have a reminder, that little D to mark off each time. But I've been kind of working my way through it, and I'm just looking at it right now. I'm at 76% of the way through. So that probably means I will just have like one more week of reading before I've gotten to the end of this. So, what are my thoughts so far? Well, it's very obviously a first draft. There's some parts that are more shaky than others. There's some parts that are slight cringe of like, okay, I obviously went into it's definitely openly kind of an erotic fantasy novel showing this mother and son who get separated first by a lord, but then they end up getting kind of sold off to what Miss Duffelpuff gets sold off to slavery, and oh no, gets kidnapped by pirates. She's actually to be killed by the lord of the things henchman. She gets kidnapped by pirates. He gets kidnapped by a wild woman, big, gigantically tall wild woman, and taken back to her village to be the village wife, where he is transformed with this dragon seed into this highly sexual, highly endowed, kind of kind of submissive, smooth, small male used for sexual pleasure. Uh, Gee, can you tell that I'm indulging in fantasies here? While she ends up on a desert island with Leaf, this huge black woman who can't speak, and they become lovers as well. Surprise, surprise. They get off the island, and we get the kind of convergence of the two stories, which is going to be coming up. Um, so it's been kind of interesting reading it through, because it actually has been kind of this structure of kind of going back and forth between the two viewpoints has really worked well to make it a bit of a, from my perspective, a page turner. So I'm enjoying that. There's definitely a lot of roughness in it, which, especially as I'm reading it, and I can kind of sail over it because I kind of know what I was writing at the time. It's pretty easy to see. But yeah, it is actually something that I think, I might actually go back and try a second draft on and see if I can't get it get it more get it to a better level, just to, for my own kind of thing of like, okay, well, I've taken it to this level. I actually completed a NaNoWriMo novel and made it into a simple ebook for myself, and been going through, and it's like, oh, okay, this is not as horrible as I think it is. I mean, that's probably the author's delusions and stuff like that, but yeah, I'm quite enjoying myself. So I think it might be one of these things where I'll need to, once I get to the end of it, is just think of overall, like, I don't want to get into kind of granular edits at this point. I think I want to get into more just like overall, how could it be a better story that way, and then so do an edit that way, and then once I've finished kind of the overall structural stuff, is then go back in and say, okay, here is let's go through section by section and improve them just on a sentence level, descriptor level, and all that sort of stuff. Motivation would be more higher level stuff, but yeah. So it's actually been going quite well, which I'm highly surprised about. So I did this check in to kind of keep myself accountable. I suggest that maybe next Sunday I will do another check in and say, okay, here I am. This is how it went. Um, hooray, hooray! My goodness, I'm so surprised. Maybe this is the key for me is I need to have this amount of distance from a work to be able to look at it. It's probably not objectively, but not so savagely. I'm like, oh, you're actually entertaining me, old Jay. You did a good job for something that you probably wrote headlong through. You're you're doing okay here, from my perspective. I always feel really awkward praising my own work. I mean, it's not something that anyone else is probably gonna. They probably find it quite odd. Which hey, at least they're finding it something. They would find it something. I guess if I get it to a certain polish, maybe I'll just publish it on LE, or I'll make just a large ebook and an ebook of it, and just kind of for shits and giggles, once I've got it to what I think is finished, I'll put it up on some free site for download as a free ebook, because I'm not going to charge anyone for it. It's definitely me trying to figure things out. And yeah. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with the Dfflpffs. Surprisingly, in a good space. Who knew?